Thank the ASU Online Business Student Association for the opportunity to speak to you. Thank you for the invitation. I'm excited to be here. As an accountant or a former accountant, I don't have the opportunity very often to go speak, and I hope I don't tell on myself and explain why once we actually finish this presentation. But you can see that when I was trying to identify which topic or what topic I wanted to speak on or talk about, I had several false starts. I could talk about, former accountant. First, you don't succeed, try again. My favorite, though, was Monopoly. It's more than just a game. I love that game, but I haven't played it in a long time. But I thought what might be more relevant, especially to students graduating from ASU, might be, hey, how to become your own boss. And so we're going to spend a few minutes today, and I'm just going to tell you how I got there. And it may be a little bit different than what you think, but I hope you get something out of it. And sharing my thoughts from my perspective with you, I hope that you'll receive some kind of nugget, a data point, if you will, that will help you achieve what you want to accomplish out of your professional career, or maybe even out of your life, because, we're more than just, we're multifaceted. And, we can be business people at the same time. We may be dads, we may be brothers, we may be moms, we may be wives, but maybe there'll be something here that you can use to make things just a little bit better. What I'd like to do is to introduce myself, and you can see that I am the managing partner and CEO. I'm actually the founder of Preferred Care Hospice, and we're a small hospice here in Columbus, Georgia. We're small by design because at this point in my career, I was trying to improve my, what do they call it, work-life balance. I'm trying to make life just a little bit easier for us, but at the same time, make a decent living. I did graduate from the University of Georgia with my bachelor's. I actually concentrated, my major was in finance. And I'm always tickled a little bit when the University of Georgia deems it necessary to call me. And usually it's a young student. She's usually a female, and she has a real thick Southern accent. And I don't know if that's by design or that just happens to be the way it is for students who go to Georgia. But they always want me to make a contribution to the academic scholarship. And one of the first things I always ask is, do you have my transcript in front of you? Because if you did, you would not be asking me for any money for an academic scholarship. Somewhat ironic. I am a CMA. Certified management accountant. It did take me 3 years to get it. I received it back in 1993. Back then it was a 5-part exam, and it was actually, a lot of it was essay. And that one accomplishment there probably did more for my career than anything else I've done. Elizabeth and I were talking about this yesterday. She's also a CMA candidate. And I was real encouraging because I think that's great. And we'll talk about why I think certain certifications are good for us as professionals. I am a former certified fraud examiner. I was a consultant / contractor on a federal investigation down in Miami. Great place to be. And my team leader was a former FBI special agent. And after work during the day, we would go back to condo, the hotel, wherever they were putting us up for the project, and we'd sit outside and by the pool and smoke cigars and have cocktails. And he actually encouraged me. I had a couple of good finds when we were on this project, and what the government was looking for to see if federal funds had been used in other ways in which they had actually been allocated. And shortest story is federal funds hadn't been, but we did find out that state funds had been misused, and then the state brought in their own auditors. My work experience is somewhat vast in that I've been all over the board. Started off in manufacturing and actually worked for a company local here in Columbus, Georgia, W.C. Bradley Company, and they actually own charbroil. So if you go to Lowe's, you're going to see the charbroil gas grill. And I believe when I was with them, they also owned Zebco, which is based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and then also Lamplight, which is like tiki torches, as well as what do you call it? the fuel, the oil that's used, burned, supposed to keep the mosquitoes away. They're in farming as well, and I used to have the pleasure of hunting on some of their land. They were very, very generous with management, and I appreciated that. Spent a little bit of time in hospitality. I was working for a joint venture in which Hilton Hotels was involved. That was a great experience. Learned a lot about sizzle, and I'll talk about that a little bit more later. Financial services, I was with one of the big four, Deloitte & Touche, accounting services, financial services. And I didn't spend a whole lot of time with them, but that did a lot for my resume as well, having been with an accounting firm, even though I was a CMA, but typically I'm not an accountant, I'm more of a financial analytical kind of guy. In healthcare, I've worked for hospices in the past, I've worked for physician-owned practices, and I did some, maybe 3, 4, 5 years of auditing and contracting for Medicare and Medicaid services. They'd send us out to look at the fiscal intermediaries to make sure that they were paying the funds to the healthcare providers in the manner in which they were supposed to. In my spare time, I try to be a backyard farmer. This year, I've not been very successful. We've had a lot of rain, I've had a lot of work, and the short story is I just haven't invested the time that would be necessary to be successful in that endeavor. Also, I have deer that occasionally come in my backyard, and they sure do like the potato leaves, and they've chewed all those down. We did have some nice green beans, and I have more onions than I know what to do with. And ultimately, and I think this may happen to us as we get older, I am someone who wants to make a difference to someone, someplace, something. When I leave this earth, I want it to be a little bit better because somehow I was involved, not necessarily in the lead, if it's nothing but just getting people coffee who are actually doing great, marvelous things. If I'm a part of it, I can say, hey, I made a difference, and that's what I want. So this is kind of who I am, but how did I get to where I was? What actually influenced me? Starting off, I think spiritual writings. I love the Old Testament, the Torah. It's like Psychology 101 if you're ever interested in reading it. And it's amazing to me that was written over 3,500 years ago, but we act like we're so complex now as a society, as people, but the psychology of a human being hasn't changed a whole lot in the last 4,000 years. Earl Nightingale, I loved back when I guess today y'all listen to podcasts. Back when I was listening in my car, it was always cassettes. And Earl Nightingale was one of my regulars. He was real big on human character development. And I guess that's pretty much the gist of what I'd like to talk about tonight as well. Zig Ziglar, high energy. A lot of the sales guys love listening to him. He was a motivational speaker, writer. Norman Vincent Peale, he's known for the power of positive thinking. That's real important. Napoleon Hill was real good. He actually wrote a book. He was born in the late 1800s, and he actually died around 1970, so he's no longer with us. But he wrote a book in 1937 called Think and Grow Rich. And I believe it was actually inspired by Andrew Carnegie, how you pronounce it, your own. But he went out and interviewed the barons of industry back in the 30s. And if you recall, the economy back in the 30s, late 30s, wasn't all that great in the United States. But he was interviewing these barons to figure out how were they so successful. Of course, our experiences influence us. I'm a real big believer in sigma, and that's the summation, so that we are the summation of all our past experiences. And some of those are good, some of those are bad, but there's always something we can learn from them. My dad was a big influencer in my life. He had a great sense of humor. He was a great sounding board. And I think he was the one who taught me to kind of keep it maybe a little bit lighter than I was predisposed to. Bob Dylan. How did Bob Dylan influence me? Back in high school, 1979, Miss Tyler at Westover High School had us do projects on what was going on in the 60s. And if you remember the 60s, the United States was in the Vietnam War. It was free love. Drugs were becoming more prevalent. And there was actually some opposition to the man. there was a sense of certain members or certain aspects of society being over controlled and everything was free. So Bob Dylan was a big activist, and I guess I did my project on him, and as a result, I learned to really enjoy his music. Today, he has a very gravelly voice. Even back then, it wasn't pretty, but he has some of the best lyrics, in my opinion. What's kind of interesting is as he's gotten older, I read a couple of years ago, he had an art exhibit in a gallery over in Germany. And then here recently, he's hooked up with somebody in Kentucky, and he's going to have a series of bourbon. And that kind of cracks me up, and maybe that's another reason I like him. One of the things I remember about Bob Dylan that still stays with me today is that when I read an article on him or an interview or something, he said that when he was writing his lyrics, it was almost as if a force was flowing through him. And that was interesting to me because I get it. I understand that. And sometimes things happen to us that we just really can't explain. There's something else involved. One other thing influenced me, or what did I learn actually? So I learned that goals are absolutely important. Personal goals, professional goals, Earl Nightingale, Zig Ziglar, Napoleon Hill, Vincent Peale, Norman Vincent Peale, they all talk about the importance of goals. And it's important for us to know, what are we going to do this week? It's important for us to know, what are we going to do this month? What are we going to do this quarter? What are we going to do this year? What are we going to do in the next 3 years? You get the idea. The next 5 years, the next 10 years. And also, I think it's important to know what it is that we want. What is it that we want to accomplish when we take our last breath? And I'm not trying to sound morbid, but I think the biggest disappointment I could have is that when I realized, when it was time for me to go, is that I messed up. I didn't do some of the things I wanted to do. Value of a positive mental attitude is important, and I learned that. PMA. I think the nowadays it's real easy with everything we're seeing in the news and what's going on in the last 10 to 15 years. There's a lot of dissension, in the country. Not saying one's right, one's wrong, but even in California, there's talk of that one state splitting up into 3 different entities. The people that live in that state just can't get along. So we need to have a positive mental attitude in that, so we don't become overwhelmed with all the negativity that's out there. Napoleon Hill. Napoleon Hill was real big on getting with like-minded people. Reading his book, and I need to reread it, but one of the things that he said that has stuck with me is the value of having a mastermind group. And what this group is, you can go and they have YouTube videos on it if you're interested, but finding people that you can actually talk about one particular subject. So Brian, Lance, Samantha, Elizabeth, we may not have a whole lot in common, but maybe we're interested in marketing. And so I come to y'all, maybe we meet once a month, maybe we meet twice a year, and I'm able to sit down, I'm able to talk to you about where I am in my business. You're able to talk to me about where you are in your business and your professions. And I'll say, hey, I got an issue though with marketing. I'm having trouble getting referrals. What do I need to do? And then maybe Lance will say, well, this is what I found in my business. And this is sharing ideas without any kind of judgment. And it's real important for us, for these groups to share back and forth. And by doing that, there's synergy involved, and I can become possibly a better business person than what I am normally. Never give up. We learn so much from our struggles. We even learn more when we never give up and we become successful. They make us grow. Be humble. I think humility, I think it was Benjamin Franklin who said that humility is the hardest virtue to control. And I think when we're humble, more people want to help us. And I think when we're humble, we have a greater opportunity or greater probability of being successful. And one of the things that Bob Dylan did teach me is that, hey, you can be successful even if you can't sing. So what else did I learn? Well, the biggest thing I learned was that, I could be my own boss. I could be my own CEO. I could be more than just a cog in a wheel. I could go places, do things, be in positions that were above my perceived role in life, and I could be successful. But this statement may be a little bit different than what you're thinking. So what did I do to become my own boss? And I became my own boss way before I became the manager partner and CEO of Preferred Care Hospice. I became my own boss probably in my late 20s because after I came out of college, I really got into the PMA. I really got into listening to these motivational speakers. And I believe the concept that I'm about to share with you actually came from Earl Nightingale. One of the first things I did was I created Bob R. Tompkins Enterprises, because I was going to have multiple companies. And what that was, I didn't do it literally. I mean, I didn't go and register or file my articles of organization with the Secretary of the State, with the state of Georgia. I didn't get an attorney. There was no management operating agreement. I didn't go and rent an office, but in my mind, I said, I'm running my own business, and my business is Bob R. Tompkins Enterprises. And one of the things that did by me believing that I had created my own business, that I began to change my perspective. So instead of saying, I work for Arizona State University, I began to think in terms of, and I would say that when people say, well, where do you work? Well, I'm with Arizona State University, but I would say to myself, Arizona State University is my client. I provide them services. I provide services to ASU. That was important. And it was important for me to change my whole perspective on what I was doing in my professional career. I wanted it to be more than just a make it, fake it till I make it statement. I wanted it to have that was the sizzle. What I wanted and what I needed was some stake. And so I identified, according to Nightingale, the four major functions of my business. And you can see what they are: sales and marketing, R&D, production, and finance. Now, some of y'all might be saying, well, what about HR and what about systems? And yes, those are all relevant in larger organizations. But when you first start out and you're a small organization, such as Preferred Care Hospice, our revenues are about $2 million, a little bit less than $2 million. I don't have an HR department. I'm the one who decides who comes on board and who leaves. I don't have a systems department per se. I contract that out. I have a services provider. But the sales and marketing, the R&D, the production, the finance, those are the four major functions of a business. And in order for me to think that I had my own business, I had to have those four roles. So let's talk about them. First, the sales and marketing. I think what we need to do if we're going to run our own business is actually identify our product, know our service. So, in my mind, for what I was doing, I was providing, in the beginning of my career, accounting services. For someone else, it could be IT services, it could be HR, it could be programming, systems. But we've got to know what it is we're actually selling. What's our product? What's our service? Can you highlight your experience? Can you promote your street cred? So, develop your presentation. So do you look like you can deliver? All of those are kind of like your elevator speeches you often hear people talk about. I mean, can you present within 20 seconds what it is that you actually do? Yes, I provide general ledger, financial accounting services, and this is what I do. Well, can you do it in such a way that's interesting? And when you say it, do you look like you can deliver? I hate to say it, but we're visual. People are visual. And if I'm going to have somebody counting my money at the end of the day, I want them to look like, they're taking care of themselves. They're not all about surfing, that they actually look like an accountant. You know what I'm talking about. And it's the way it is. And like it or not, it's important that we present ourselves in a professional way. And can you communicate why you're better than your competition? That's important. When I used to apply for jobs in my cover letter, one of the things I would write is, hey, I'm not your typical accountant. I can explain complex financial information to non-financial managers. And sometimes in my field, what I was noticing is that, I wasn't a typical accountant, but I wasn't as bad as some of the other typical accountants that I knew. It's funny, my wife is very outgoing, very sociable, very pretty. And we have a little saying amongst us is that, hey, without her in my life, I would never get invited to Christmas parties. And without me in her life, she would never have any money. I didn't say she would never have lots of money, but she would never have any money. So it's important for us to be able to communicate and identify why we're actually better than our competition. And so also always remember the 4 P's of marketing. And this is kind of, looks like we have an oasis there with a palm tree. We're actually sending it out on my copy. It's actually a smiley face. And that's somewhat tongue-in-cheek. So one of the times when I was working, actually it was the joint venture with Hilton Hotels. They were out building resorts. One of the principals of the business wanted me to be able to be his liaison to the financial guys. So he needed a marketing controller. And before I went and interviewed him, I didn't know anything about marketing, and I really still don't now. But one of the things I did is I looked up in a book, what does a marketer do? And that's where I learned the 4 Ps: product, promotion, placement, and price. Sales and marketing, my last point here is that even when you get the job, you still got to sell yourself, and you still got to market yourself. And what you want to do is that you want to let people know that, hey, they got a value with you, that you're providing others that your knowledge, your understanding, that they're glad to have you. And think about it in terms of of this. It's more than just in a professional sense. It's more than just running your business, but it's also in your relationships. I mean, I want my wife, we've been together for 12, 13 years. I want her to know that, hey, she's still got a gem in me, and that I'm going to take care of her, even if something happens to me. She knows she's going to be okay. I'm going to go where she wants to go sometimes. I'm going to do things that, and this may not just be intentional, but I don't want to be like a peacock with my wife, but at the same time, I want her to know, I want to impress her from time to time, and that's just human nature. Elizabeth, nobody's writing any questions. Is that good or bad? So the second function is R&D, research and development. And this is pretty fun here. So what do you want to do? So if I wanted to ultimately be a CEO and my training was in accounting, I realized that it would probably help me if one day I was a CFO. And before I could become a CFO, maybe I needed to become a controller. And before I became a controller, maybe I needed to be an accounting manager. And before I became an accounting manager, maybe I needed to be a general ledger accountant. And as I became a general ledger accountant, I needed experience in budgeting, analysis, treasury, financial reporting. So ultimately, I'm trying, R&D is helping me do my job today or helping me get my job, but it's also helping me, the research and the development of me is to help me get to where I want to be. Remember those goals, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years down the road. You got to invest in yourself. And this can be education. Obviously, you're doing it with ASU. Congratulations to you, formal institution. But it can also be seminars. Like I said, today you're listening to podcasts, YouTube. If YouTube offered a PhD, I would have one. I love YouTube, and even a mentor. And a mentor can be someone within the company in which you work, or it could be somebody else. My dad, to a certain extent, he wasn't a business person, but he had a lot of wisdom. And he was one of my mentors. I had another mentor when I worked at the Bradley Company that I learned a whole lot from. And I really appreciate his contribution and his investment in me. Of course, he got a lot out of it as well, in that he did a lot of the grunt work, and he gave me a lot of rope. And whenever he saw that I was beginning to hang myself, he'd pull it back a little bit. Whatever education you're getting, make sure it's something, I call it actionable intelligence. Make sure it's something you can do something with. Invest in yourself. It could be more than just job related. That would actually help you be a better person, helping your sales and marketing. But you get it. Experience. So one time I was a financial analyst for a sporting good apparel retail store, and this is with WC Bradley as well. And I had worked retail some, going to high school, but I wanted to understand our operations of that particular retail chain a little bit better. So what I did is I said, hey, I called the CEO of the retail chain, and I said, hey, I want to come, I want to understand the business a little bit better. And I was at corporate at the time, so all automatically his eyebrows went up. I was like, what? And so on Saturday mornings, I'd put on my little name tag and I'd go sell Nikes and Adidas and all that cool gear. But it helped me understand operations a little bit, and it also gave me a chance to talk to some of the employees, and it gave me some street cred. It made me, it opened up some channels of communication, not only with the employees, but the CEO as well. And it made my job as their analyst a little bit easier. Certifications, we talked about those. CPA, CMA, CFP, those are all accounting related. There are others, black belt, with Six Sigma, very, very important. It's all about leaning out processes. I get it. If you ever worked in manufacturing, great to have. I'm sure there are some in systems and programming. These are great R&D efforts. And if you're off doing that, and so you're off doing that, you're learning something. When I received my CMA, I probably learned more studying for that exam. Maybe it's because I had to take it several times, but I remember, it really broadened my understanding of FASB 96, 97, the direct and indirect method of accounting for financial cash flow statements. But you get it. So those are good things to do, good efforts to improve yourself. And to, like I said here, continue to make your product and your service better. And do it for what you ultimately want to do. And if you look at I have a note here to consider the iPhone. I don't know what iPhone we're on now, but there was that first one, and what's there now, 7, 8, 10. But think about how each one has gotten a little bit better. And that's what we want to do as individuals, become a little bit better than we are tomorrow than we were today. Production. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where it's showtime. This is where you make your money. And this is where you deliver your product. Learn everything about your job. And when I talk about inputs and uses, if your first job out of college, you're an accounts payable specialist or accounts payable supervisor, understand where those invoices come from. Understand the vendors who are serving, what services are those vendors providing that you're actually processing their invoices. Where are you getting your invoices? Make relationships with those people that are sending you invoices. And then the uses. So accounts payable, you may want to get to know the financial reporting, maybe the accounts manager a little bit better. If you're the accounting manager and you're distributing reports once a month to the other managers in your company, go to them, talk to them. Whenever I came on board with a new company, I'd make it a point to go and sit down with the people who would get my financial statements. Try to find out what it is they did and try to find out how I can make it better. For instance, if you have a manager, so what do you look at? And you say, well, the only thing I really look at, Bob, is all my labor. So I take these 8 different lines, add them up, and I know that better be less than 10% of our revenues for the month. It gave me an opportunity to say, you have to add them up manually? Yeah. I said, hey, I'm sorry, let me get you a report, and I'll do that. So in 10 seconds, you know whether you're good or bad. And he says, oh, that's great. And what if I take this month and I compare it to last year, same month last year? Oh yeah, that'd be good. And what if I took a year to date and last year to date? What can you do to produce even more? It's important to provide the timely, accurately, and effectively whatever service or product you provide. You can be the best accountant, but if you can't get it to where the information they have is something that they can use immediately, then it's great when you're sitting around the bar with your buddies, you're talking stuff, but it doesn't help. It's not actionable, and it's not helping your company become better. Provide more than is expected. So one of the big things we talked about in Deloitte was manage client expectations. Manage client expectations. If I miss a forecast by $10,000, but we made $10,000 more, they think I'm a genius. If I miss the forecast by $5,000 and it's under what I forecasted, I'm that guy. So you want all your surprises, under promise, over deliver. And also be the outliers. Set the standard. Have everybody look at you and say, yeah, he comes in a little bit early, he stays a little bit late. He cares about what it is that he does. So sales and marketing, R&D, production, and then the final four, of course, is finance. And the gist of this is structure your life that you can make less. Manage your revenue, all aspects of your personal finances, investment. The goal is not to struggle. If you're struggling with your personal finances, and I'm talking about as a company, for instance, so I became Medicare certified in my business in April 2017. I had been seeing patients since October 2016, so that's 6 months I'd been seeing patients and I wasn't getting paid. I knew I wasn't going to get paid. But once April 5th came, I could start getting paid. Not for anything that had been done in the past, but in the future. And typically, once hospices are up and running, we're paid every 30 days. Well, because I was a new hospice, it took 4 months for me to actually start getting my money from the federal government. And that was very, very frustrating. And it consumed me. I mean, because I had payroll to meet, rent. I mean, I'd already brought people on board. And so I spent most of my time looking in, under mattresses and all, looking so I can make payroll, I can make my expenses until I was paid. It got to the point where I even brought not my state senator, my U.S. senator in. Like, hey, I signed a contract with y'all. You're the federal government. I'm a small businessman. I have at that time maybe 13 employees. So why aren't y'all doing what you said you were going to do? And there was a lot of concern, but that never happened. But if not having money affects you in your personal life, it's going to affect your business. And all I'm just saying is, don't struggle. Set it up where you're not struggling. And when we talk about being profitable, it's real easy to think that it's all about the dollars, but it's really more than that. There's financial, emotional, physical, you see in there. And also create personal wealth. And when I talk about creating wealth, creating wealth gives you staying power. Yeah, I was struggling, but and I'm not talking about my personal wealth, but I had relationships with people that you see that side of them too, that could help me. And I didn't ask for anything for free. In fact, if I ever borrowed money from friends, family, what have you, and when you're starting a business, sometimes that happens. I was paying them 10% interest, which is more than what they were getting at the time. Of course, the market did quite well, but still 10%, and I paid them on the first of every month. Actually, I told them I paid them on the first, and I actually paid them on the last day of the month, so they always got it a day early. And that's all about managing expectations. But create personal wealth of experiences too. I mean, when you go vacation with your family, there's an opportunity to kind of sit back and say, hey, this is, you're sitting on the beach, you're enjoying an adult beverage, and you can say, what can I do to make myself better? This is an experience. You're with your family. It doesn't have to be all about business. But then give back. Talk about find a mentor. Well, every one of you have something. Even if you're young, you have something that you can give to someone that you can mentor them. And what you want to do is on your when it's all said and done, when you're sitting on the front porch and enjoying your mint julep or your sweet tea, and you're out there and you're looking at your grandkids play, you want to say, I made a difference. I created a legacy. My great grandkids are going to be okay. I've taught them. The business has been successful, right? Whether you were self-employed or you provided services to your employer, and all in all, it's pretty good. So, what do I hope you take away from this? You have a purpose. There's something you're supposed to do on this earth. Sure, it can be in a professional context, like we've been talking about, but it's also probably more than that too. And I just ask that, hey, know that you got a purpose. Know that you got a purpose, regardless of um, you're, you're my age or if you're younger, there's something that you're supposed to be doing. We talked about people and relationships. And there's a proverb that says, the wise man seeks the counsel of many. Then there was this book, and I forget who actually wrote it, but he said, beware the naked man who offers you a shirt. Everybody wants to give you an opinion. So be wise when you start looking at your master groups, when you start looking at people to give you counsel. Make sure that their motivation is to make you, help you succeed and not just to stroke their own egos. Positive mental attitude, PMA, work on that. That's important. Your goals, write them down. And I was thinking about my goals. So have I written my goals down for 2018? Honestly, I haven't. I did write them down for 2017. And, sometimes I may have 20 goals, and I try to split them up in all aspects of my life. And if I didn't accomplish but 3 or 4, 100%, that was something that I might not have done had I not taken the time to develop them and write them down. Never give up. You push hard enough, it usually comes your way. There's nothing wrong with failing. But when you fail, don't fail because you gave up. Fail because there was nothing else you could do. You gave all, and there was nothing else you could do. And then it's still a great learning experience. And like I said, you can be your own CEO. You can still work for another company, but you can actually provide them services and consider yourself to be running your own enterprise. And finally, I think it's important to be thankful, be kind, be courageous. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid of things not working out for you, because they do. I mean, the fact that we've been around for tens, hundreds, many, many years, thousands of years, hundred thousands of years, millions of years, it's the fact that we're successful. I mean, we're making it, and you will too. There's no doubt in my mind. So that's pretty much all I have, but I would like to see if you have any questions. And they don't have to be questions specifically about the 4 functions of your business, but if you have any questions about certifications, what do you think? I think the dogs are going to do this year. They're pretty smart. Any questions?
Feel free to unmute, you guys, and ask out loud too. You don't have to type in the box. Brian was asking how you feel about the project manager license.
I'm familiar with it. When I was at Deloitte, I actually tried to get that. That was a pretty big cert that was popular in the big 4 accounting firms. So yeah, absolutely. Not very many people have it, which makes it more valuable, I think. And almost anything, you think about these large organizations, there are projects going on, whether it's in the that we talked about, new accounting systems, new product lines, reducing cost out of the product. Yeah. I don't know much about it, but I know I tried. I had a buddy of mine who was a senior at Deloitte. He encouraged me to get it. I can never get one of the slots. So CMA versus CPA. Good question. So I came out of college with a finance degree. So automatically back then, that 5th year accounting wasn't as required as it is now. When I was with Deloitte, CPAs were held in a little bit higher esteem because it wasn't an accounting firm than say CMAs were. But what I did wasn't auditing for Deloitte. I was actually implementing accounting systems, and as a contractor, I was doing some financial investigations. So if you want to go work for one of the accounting firms, I think a CPA is going to give you a little bit more street cred than a CMA. You want to go into operations as a company, unless you're going to be specifically in their tax department, if they're large enough to have their own separate tax department. Personally, I think a CMA gives you a little bit more well-rounded education, or maybe I should say knowledge, or it says that you've obtained a body of knowledge that's just a little bit more than just accounting. I mean, it's just systems. Back when I took it, it was fraud. I think fraud, some auditing was involved. So it all depends on what you want to do.
Okay.
Accounting firm, it doesn't have to be a big four. In fact, there are a lot of local accounting firms. One of my partners actually works in an one of the local accounting firms, and he does quite well for himself, and he's into a little bit of everything. But yeah, I mean, he would hire CPA probably over a CMA. If you want to be a manufacturing firm, might be a little bit more interested in the CMA.
That answers my question. Thank you.
What made you decide that you did want to own your own company? Do you think that's a type of person, or do you think everybody should want to own their own company?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I did it for, I'll be honest with you, I did it for survival. I was with the firm, I was with the company, and we were not doing very, very well. And there seemed to be, I lost confidence in leadership. And I didn't want to have to go back on the road again. The year before I came off the road, I worked from January to October. I had a job with another hospice that started in November, December. So I took the whole month of November off and traveled out west. I love Arizona, by the way, and have friends there still. But I was on the road like 100 days, and I was married, and the money was real good. And that's, when I talk about being able to take less, I took a pay cut to do an 8 to 5 type job. But I wanted to come off the road. I was eating a little bit too much. I wasn't exercising, and it was just important for me to do it. So when I started working for the firm, came on board, and we did some things differently. I think it's at the direction of the board of directors. But ultimately, 5 years later, I realized we'd had a spurt of good news, and we were profitable. But then ultimately, we went back to things that we used to do. So we were not sustainable. And I didn't want to be the age I am now and have to go back on the road. So for me, it was like, well, what do I do? And I live in Columbus. I guess there's about 250, 300,000 people here. There's some big companies. I didn't want to work for a larger company. I always enjoyed smaller companies. That's just my nature. And so I couldn't make the kind of money I wanted to make or needed to make working for a smaller company. So I kind of molded around for a year and a half before actually doing it. And I'll be honest with you. So I started April 2016, and it wasn't until like 3 or 4 months ago. I'll tell you the truth. So from April 2016, probably February, March, go ahead and say March of 2018, if you'd asked me, would you do it again if you could? I would have said, no, I would not. It was just too stressful. It took way too much money. I knew I was going to have to deal with the bureaucracy. I didn't realize how bureaucratic the bureaucracy was. I was real naive in that regard. And I missed the good old days, but I would have probably been without a job. Before I left my old firm, my old company, I actually started talking to bankruptcy attorneys as a strategic outlet for if certain things should happen. But since March, I know it's just June now, the past 3 months, March, April, May, June, April, May, June, I'm beginning to think now that maybe I should have done it sooner. So I knew that time was going to come, and I'm glad it's finally gotten here. Yeah, we're we're sustainable. We're very successful. I'm able to give the people who work for me more than market wages, and I do that by intention. One is I consider it to be necessary because I am the new kid on the block. And there's always some questions and perceived risk, rightfully so, that new firms are going to make it. So I'm not bashful about saying, yeah, I'm in hospice, but I make profit. My people are paid well, and by hiring the kind of people that we're hiring, we're going to be successful. So to answer your question, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent, but no, owning your own company, I mean, it's not that, to me, it's not that big of a deal. It's definitely not for everybody. It's stressful at times. There are a lot of things I like about, like, some of the freedoms I like. One of the freedoms is, and I know this is going to sound so trivial, and it is, but for some reason, it just, one of the things I like to wear jeans to work. I always wear a sport coat. And whenever I'm going to meet physicians or hospitals or potential referral sources, yeah, I'll put the suit on. And so there's a lot of freedom in that regard. But at the same time, when I go to bed at night, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, I'm thinking about the company. On the weekend, when I'm on vacation, went to Seattle last April, and every day it was like checking in with the office. And yeah, I'm free to a certain extent to do some of the things I want to, but it's always there. It's getting easier, though, because now we're beginning to build some depth and be able to hire some people and allocate some responsibilities to them. So, yeah, Lance, I hear you. What I really would like, and also something else I like, is we go run tomorrow. And I'll send a text to my manager of operations and running. I'll be in late. I go and I'll go run in and then show up. And so my whole team, they show up about 8:15. And so if I come in at 10 o'clock and I work for an hour and a half, and I'm going to go to lunch, I have jokingly heard, oh, and what a job. I wish I could come in and work for an hour and a half and go to lunch. And I just flat out tell them, hey, it's good to be king. Yeah. Hey, your checks were deposited in your bank account, right? Yeah, excellent. Good. I just remind them they're getting what I hired them to do. But at the same time, 5 o'clock, 4:30, well, they're not here. But the good news is that we are small, and my challenge is to keep everybody engaged. And so I've given what I call success bonuses if we've had a good quarter. Giving those out 2 quarters in a row. And that kind of motivates them a little bit. It's interesting about healthcare. They're always saying, oh, I'm all about the patient. I'm all about the patient. And that's good. But they also have mortgages to make. They have kids they're putting through school. So when I give them a check and say, hey, I appreciate what you did. We were successful this quarter. It's because of your contributions. And I just want to reward you. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. And I hope this number, this check, this balance, this amount continues to grow. I don't want to bore you, but there are some things I struggle with. I've had what I think is some good experience in business. There's some areas that I'm weak in, and marketing tends to be one. So, we talk about setting up, finding people. One of the things I try to do is bring marketers in and ask them questions. And marketers sometimes make me a little nervous when I get in my personal space. It's like, hey, I'm an accountant, get away from me. But I've asked them questions and try to learn as much as I can so that I can spend our marketing dollars so that they're the most effective. Lance, what do you do? See that you like denim and sport coats.
Hey, Bob, how are you?
Yeah, doing good. And yourself?
I'm doing all right here. Just tuning in from Los Angeles here. Well, I got you in one tab, and I got another tab blowing up saying that LeBron just signed with the Lakers. So I guess I'm doing okay. It's really nice tuning in to you today. I am a business developer. I spent the last I'm going to call it better part of the last 2 decades, delivering technology solutions to companies big and small. I've worked as an employee. I quit school, in fact, in the mid 90s for one of the best jobs of my career to fly around the hemisphere delivering software to big oil companies. As an employee, I've worked as a contractor. I do right now contract work while I'm studying to complete my degree, and I've also worked, as a founder of at least 3 different plays, co-founder and founder of a couple of different plays. So I definitely can sympathize with some of the things you said about being an employee versus being a business owner. I think I've got my own opinions about it. Definitely agree with you that not everyone is cut out to be that business owner that here in this American system we all think is good to be the king, as you said, but it comes with an awful lot of responsibility. And like you said, where people can check in, clock in, show up at 8 o'clock and know if they're working for a great company that their check's going to be deposited and all they've got to worry about is paying the bills. Now you've got to worry about all the stuff everyone else does. Plus, you've got the responsibility of other people who are depending upon you, and that's if you're doing it the right way. That's never an easy, never an easy ask, never an easy responsibility to take on. So I definitely like the points you said there. I'm fresh out of a play that I was able to thankfully exit for many times less than I thought that I would. I licensed some technology this time last year, and I threw that boomerang out there, and I'm waiting for it to come back to me in the next couple of years here and take another run at it, hopefully with a much bigger, better, stronger network here, courtesy of ASU and WP Carey and the rest of it. So, so I feel your pain, and I felt some of your pleasure as well. Business is awesome. Being an employee is great. It's everyone thinks, like you said, it's awesome to show up at 10. They just don't know that you probably woke up at 6 thinking about how you're going to get through the day, through the week, and through the month, and all they had to do was wake up at 7:30 and get down to work at 8 o'clock. And not to make it sound that easy, but it's always perspectives, right? You always think something is something until you got to do it. So this has been great.
There are different types of horses. There are the thoroughbreds. There are the pack horses. There are the quarter horses. And there's nothing wrong with what we're comfortable in doing, as long as we're okay with the outcomes and whatever. Right. Absolutely, and so I never thought. Well, I take that back. We were talking about writing our goals. I came across some goals this past year that I wrote back. I would have been in my mid-20s there. And one of the goals was I was going to own a small manufacturing company with about 50 employees. And what was interesting to me as I was reviewing that long-term goal, the employee welfare and providing for them and giving them an opportunity to self-actualize was a real important part of why I wanted to do it. So it wasn't all about the money. I know a lot of small business people. Well, for instance, if you read the book, The Millionaire Next Door, great book. It talks about plumbers and contractors and people running dry cleaning services like millionaires. But if you look at their lifestyle, it isn't about the money. I mean, they have the net worth, they have the wealth that gives them some sustainability, but it's providing a service, it's providing for their families, and that's important. That's important.
Yeah, that's great. I'm kind of new to this application, so is my big mug up here on the screen where you can see it now?
Sure.
Is that what's
You're looking good too, man. You're looking good.
It must be LeBron coming to LA. I don't know. Thank you. It's good seeing you. It's good seeing you. I'll take my face down, and then I'll keep a little. Oh, there's my friend. Hi, E.
Hi.
What's happening?
Well,
so this is nice.
Bob, another thing that is really important to us as WP Carey OBSA members is being able to network and grow our network. Would you be willing for us to connect with you on LinkedIn?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
I would prefer if you did. Thank you for suggesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll definitely most likely see the four of us reach out to you, and then some of our post viewers. You might get some stragglers in after they watch this recording.
Well, let me tell you what I think about LinkedIn. I think it's a great service, but I actually use it. So several years ago, I was looking through I think I had maybe 200 contacts, but back then I had maybe 120. And some of these guys I had worked with 15, 20 years ago. And so I reached out to them, and if they were local, and I'd say, "You've been LinkedIn contacts for 15, 20 years." I said, "I haven't heard from you. Let me buy you lunch." So it gave me an opportunity to meet them up for lunch, and everybody will take on a free lunch, right? And just kind of hear about stories and what's going on with them. And I'd always leave and say, "I don't want to bug you, but next time if you want to get together, give me a call." And so I had about 4 or 5 people that I did that with, local. There's still one guy I meet on a regular basis. So if you become a LinkedIn connection, don't be irritated if 6 months down the road I send you an email or something and say, "Hey, how's everything going? Are you tracking? Are you where you want to be? What's exciting for you? How's LeBron doing?" Yeah.
Yay. That's what it's all about. Actually, I'm glad to hear someone else say it. LinkedIn, like I have a 19-year-old who spends most of her time on Instagram, not the big Facebook thing. I guess they're really not big in the millennial demographic. It's whatever. But convincing her to put a little bit of time into LinkedIn, I notice that ASU spends some time in some of their classes telling people to engage on LinkedIn as well. Look, it's not the best platform, but it's a great place to put your business contacts, keep it business. You're not sharing what you're eating on LinkedIn, probably. You're not sharing, right, like that your boyfriend just broke up with you or something like that. You're keeping it pretty business, and for that sense, LinkedIn really is a good place. And hey, if you're out in LA, I do it all the time. If I'm ever out in North Carolina, listen, you already know you're getting a call. All right, so that's what it's for. I mean, if you can't use it it's like a fancy Rolodex, like a almost living, breathing Rolodex where you can see people's credentials, you can see what they've got going on, where they're working, what they're interested in, and if you're in their zip code, you drop them a message, you say if you're around, I'll do coffee, and it's a nice way to to shake someone's hand and sit down and share some space with them. In this big digital world we've got going on, we can lose some of our humanity, and there's nothing like touching base with someone in the flesh and blood. That's what we're built for. So I believe in it. If you're in LA, my office is, I don't know, man, walking distance from Staples Center. So you bring the beer money and I'll get the tickets and we'll just make it happen.
Excellent.
All right. Well, Bob, thank you so much. This was wonderful, and we look forward to being in touch with you in the future.
Excellent. Thank you all for the opportunity. I really enjoyed talking to you and getting to know you a little bit better, and I look forward to talking to you in the future. Thank you again.
Yes, thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you, Bob. Bye.
Good night.